Hey, yo, Choice here. Thank you so much for joining me again for another session of Choice Spirit. Here I want to talk a little bit more about emotions. Why is it important to control your emotions? Because your emotions put things in motion. Your emotion forms things. Your emotion bring about things. It makes things happen in your world. And see, when you are unaware of how you give over your energy and control and your beingness by being out of control and being emotional and getting emotional on so many different topics and issues, what you're doing is that energy is then going into that particular thing and forming it. It's forming it. So if you, like when you're in love and you're so deeply in love, now I'm not speaking about what we call love these days. I'm not talking about from that perspective. I'm talking about from the perspective of when you truly love, and the love is coming from that sacred space. That love forms things. It heals things. It brings light to aspects of darkness. It uplifts humanity. Just as the opposite causes chaos and destruction and deforms things. But it does bring things about. It does form things. So it doesn't matter what the emotion is. If the emotion is deep and strong enough, it will create a wave. And the type of wave that you send out into the ether has to return something, has to reflect something, because you are projecting, and you are projecting with a certain energy. The energy is at a certain frequency, which then will bring its likeness. So this is why it's important to know what your emotions, what you are giving emotion to, and whether or not it's something that you're looking forward to. Reaping the benefits of having so much energy poured into something. We're calling forth things by way of the frequency of our emotion. The frequency of our emotion. And as I mentioned before in one of my other videos, those that know this will put forth news and information to keep you emotional, because they know that by keeping you emotional, it keeps them controlling the narrative and controlling you and basically dictating what you will do and what you won't do and how you will do and how you won't do. This is the nature of emotion. So if they can keep you emotionally caught up, and what you're emotional about is energy going into that particular thing, energy that's going into that particular thing, you will form the likeness of that thing in that world. You will perpetuate whatever that narrative is. It's because that's where your energy is going. So if your energy is going there, you're perpetuating that, you're building on that, you're strengthening that, you're giving energy to that. People know this, and they use this to create worlds. Your energy creates worlds. It creates worlds. So if you are not being mindful about how you're directing and using your energy, and it doesn't mean trying to control your emotions. That's not what I'm saying. It's at least awareness of how you're using your emotions and what you are getting emotional about. Your emotion is like a compass. It kind of like knows you where, lets you know where you are from 1 to 10, so to speak, if you will, right? It lets you know where you are vibrationally, if you're vibing low or if you're vibing high. Your emotion is a sensor. It's that kind of detector. No, you can detect based on your emotion where you are, but also know that that emotion is doing something. It's creating something. It's giving energy to something. It's paying for something. Know that. It's paying for something. It's also, it's a charge. You know, it's like you're charging something. Well, you're charging something, and that something is going to reward you based on the charge you give it, okay? So check yourself when you're feeling a certain way. Sit back, try to figure out what you're feeling and why you're feeling, and figure out how you can shift that if it needs to be shifted, or heighten it if it needs to be heightened. If it's a high vibing, if it's a high, good vibe, then ride it. Ride it and use that to you know, to fill your emotional bank account. So the next time you spend from that emotional bank account is not completely depleted. You can go back in and get some good stuff. So check your emotion. Quick word on this. Of course, I'm going to continue doing videos on emotion because emotion is important, and it's important because your emotion builds stuff. It creates stuff. It builds worlds. It moves things. Okay? It helps. It helps to build things, and it does move things. So anyway, Choice here. Thank you so much for joining me again for another session of Choice Spirit. Namaste. Choice here. Bye.